With international tensions at an all-time high, a massive explosion has just shattered the tranquility of the Russian Naval Aviation Airbase in western Russia, a whopping 500 miles away from Ukraine. As the smoke clears and the extent of the damage becomes clear, the world holds its breath. 2 helicopters were destroyed entirely, and 2 more were seriously damaged. Moreover, Russia has lost over 25% of its operational Ka-52 helicopter fleet, leaving the nation vulnerable in its ongoing conflict with Ukraine. However, this was not a battle casualty as much as a direct, blunt attack into the heart of Russia that heavily maimed the Russian Air Force. As a piece of footage circulating social media seems to confirm, the devastating event was an act of sabotage. Towards the end of October 2022, a massive explosion engulfed the Russian Naval Aviation Airbase in western Russia, the Ostrov airfield in Pskov, 15 miles from the Estonian border and 500 miles from Ukraine. The detonation blew up at least 4 Ka-52 Alligator attack helicopters. The following day, it was suggested it was no accident. A user on social media released a short piece of footage purportedly depicting the exact moment a man sabotaged the Russian facility. In the short video, the individual appears crouching along one of the Russian rotorcraft, setting up what seems to be a bomb with an MD5M detonator combined with a VZD-6CH mechanical fuse. Notably, the fuse used in the bomb had a delay of up to 6 hours, allowing the saboteurs ample time to escape, while the audacious attack was sure to send shockwaves through the Russian military establishment. According to Ukraine's military intelligence agency, 2 Ka-52s were destroyed and 2 more were seriously damaged. Although there is no way to independently verify the agency's claim, social media users in Russia have mentioned incidents involving helicopters in the area. The attack is a decisive blow to the Russian Air Force, which has already lost a quarter of its Ka-52s in the war with Ukraine, and being Russia's finest attack helicopter, its short supply is cause for concern. Remarkably, the manufacturer took 14 years to supply the roughly 100 Ka-52s the Russian Air Force took to war. What's more, with the production of military aircraft in Russia decreasing, it's unclear when the losses might be made up. The Ka-52 is an all-weather attack helicopter developed by the Kamov Design Bureau, part of Russian helicopters. As the twin-seat variant of the Ka-50 attack helicopter, the aircraft proves highly maneuverable and capable of destroying enemy armored ground targets, tanks, low-speed aerial targets, and personnel at the front line and in tactical depth. It also serves as a surveillance platform and aerial command post for a group of attack helicopters. Unlike its predecessor, it features a wide nose and an extended fuselage with a length of 16 meters, a height of 4.9 meters, and a main rotor diameter of 14.5 meters. In terms of maximum takeoff weight, it reaches 10,800 kilograms. Still, about 85% of the airframe, components, and systems are shared between the 2 variants. The modern glass cockpit of the Ka-52 accommodates 2 crew members seated in a side-by-side arrangement. The cockpit is equipped with a heads-up display, or HUD, 4 SMD66 multifunction displays, a helmet-mounted sight display, image intensifiers, and a GPS receiver. Additionally, the helicopter integrates a Phasitron cabin desk radio locator and Navigation and Attack System for Helicopters, or NASH. Both crew members are seated on K-37-800M ejection seats fitted with a catapult crew rescue system. In December 1996, the first Ka-52 helicopter was rolled out, and its maiden flight took place half a year later. Serial production began in 2008, and by the turn of the decade, the Russian Air Force received 3 Ka-52 helicopters for special missions. The Ka-52 is known for its high combat survivability and powerful weaponry. On the starboard side of the fuselage, there's a movable gun mount, the NPPU-80, fitted with a 2A42 30mm automatic gun. The helicopter also features 6 wing-mounted external hardpoints that can carry different combinations of weapons, such as Vickers anti-tank guided missiles, Ataka missiles with a laser guidance system, and B-8 V-20 rocket launchers for 80mm unguided S-8 rockets. The Vickers anti-tank missile has a range of 8 to 10 kilometers, and the helicopter can also be armed with IGLA-V anti-aircraft guided missiles. Additionally, the Ka-52 is equipped with the latest guided air-to-surface missile, Izdelia 305E, which can hit a target up to 14.5 kilometers away and reached speeds of up to 230 meters per second. In April 2011, the Ka-52 began its service, and the Air Force signed a contract with the company for 140 Ka-52s, replacing the previous Ka-50 Black Shark fleet. 7 years later, the Russian Defense Ministry expressed interest in procuring 114 upgraded versions of the Ka-52 as part of the state armament program for 2018 to 2027. As of 2023, a quarter of those have already been lost to the Ukrainians. The Russian Air Force is reeling from a series of blows in their ongoing war with Ukraine. Flying Kamov Ka-52 attack helicopters, the Air Force has been facing tough opposition from Ukrainian air defenses, which have already shot down a quarter of the service's 100-strong Ka-52 fleet. The reason is straightforward. Their Kamov Ka-52 gunships are highly visible and vulnerable to Ukrainian missileers when they climb and hover to use their precision-guided missiles. The Russian Air Force started the conflict with around 100 of these two-crew helicopters, but they've already lost at least 23 of them, including the most recent confirmed loss captured on tape. Making matters worse for the Russians, Ka-52s are the only Russian attack helicopters compatible with the Air Force's best anti-tank guided missile, the Viker. Plus, it's the only reliable precision weapon in their inventory. Therefore, Russian commanders have deployed them into combat to fire Vikers at Ukrainian tanks and fighting vehicles. However, firing the Viker is a risky business for Ka-52 crews, as the missile is a beam rider. The firing helicopter must hover for several seconds to shoot a laser beam at the target from as far as 6 miles away and then fire the missile, which follows the laser all the way to the target. Until the missile hits the target, the helicopter can't move, leaving them vulnerable to Ukrainian air defenses. Ukrainian missileers are using extreme tactics to survive. They fly their helicopters as low as 10 or 15 feet over the ground, angling up briefly to launch unguided rockets in long ballistic arcs toward their targets. Like the Ukrainian Defense Ministry put it, quote, "A 5-meter altitude flight makes it impossible for the enemy's anti-aircraft defense to shoot down our dragonflies." Admittedly, the tactic isn't always accurate, but it helps the helicopter crews survive. Ukraine has lost only 12 helicopters since Russia's war in the country began in February 2022. In contrast, Russia has lost 52 of its higher-flying helicopters. In the expert's opinion, quote, "As long as the Russian Air Force in Ukraine favors precision application of the Viker missile over the survival of the Ka-52s firing the missile, the gunship crews face extreme risk and a shockingly short life expectancy." On the other hand, now that Russian territory has been infiltrated, severe security problems have arisen. While it's unclear how the saboteurs sneaked into Russia, they traveled some distance. Or worse, they were already on the inside. Either way, the attack highlights the vulnerability of Russian military installations, even those located relatively far from active war zones. It's a wake-up call for the Russian military, which must take additional security measures to prevent further attacks. In the ongoing aerial war between Russia and Ukraine, a daring drone has captured an incredible glimpse of the fierce combat. The exact moment a Russian Ka-52 attack helicopter encountered the Ukrainian National Guard in the heart of Zaporizhzhia Oblast. With a swift and precise strike, the Ukrainian forces managed to bring down the helicopter using nothing but a 9K-38 Igla man-portable air defense system. The missile struck true, hitting the tail of the helicopter and sending it into a terrifying tailspin. Despite the catastrophic hit, the helicopter valiantly fought to stay airborne, defying the odds and soaring through the air for a few heart-stopping moments. However, the flames gnawing at its underbelly signaled impending danger. The Ka-52 attack helicopter is widely regarded as one of the best in the world. With superior optics, night vision devices, and precision missiles, it was initially designed for special operations support, particularly at night. Its crews were specially trained for commando operations, making them invaluable to Russian planners during the early weeks of the invasion of Ukraine. As Russian brigades crossed the border and headed toward Kyiv, intending to destroy the Ukrainian government and force the armed forces to surrender, they found themselves deep behind enemy lines with their communications broken down. As such, the Russian Air Force relied heavily on the Ka-52s to support the troops on the front line. Despite their advanced training, the Ka-52 crews encountered a formidable challenge in the form of the Ukrainian armed forces, who hurled their entire arsenal at the Russian helicopters. This onslaught included anti-tank missiles and ground assaults, facilitated by artillery and drones. However, it was the Ukrainians' arsenal of thousands of short-range, infrared-guided, man-portable air defense systems, or MANPADS, that presented the most severe threat to the Ka-52 crews, including American-made Stingers. Starting in late February 2022, the Russian Air Force went into war with no less than 100 twin-rotor, two-seat Ka-52s, losing a quarter of their strength in less than a year. One particular incident over Zaporizhzhia Oblast was captured on camera and posted on social media, where hundreds of thousands have witnessed firsthand the uncanny maneuvering skills of the specialized helicopter, even when terribly damaged. Amid the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, the 93rd Mechanized Brigade has audaciously asserted that they have taken down a Russian Ka-52 Alligator helicopter using Soviet-made man-portable air defense systems, specifically the 9K-38 Igla. Bolstering their claim, they purportedly have a video recording of the helicopter's crash. However, there has been no official response from the Russian authorities, leaving many wondering whether the claim is valid. Even so, the 93rd Brigade insists that the video footage is legitimate and has been verified by Ukrainian intelligence. According to the brigade, 2 Ka-52 helicopters were flying in the vicinity of their mobile group when one was shot down, and a drone managed to capture the incredible moment when the Russian helicopter was hit by the Ukrainian National Guard in Zaporizhzhia Oblast. Evidently, the aircraft's tail was hit, which induced a conflagration and led to a plume of smoke trailing the helicopter as it persistently flew for a particular duration. The pilot was eventually forced to crash-land the helicopter in a nearby field, but the fact that the vehicle was able to stay aloft post-impact is a testament to the pilot's extraordinary skill and determination. Moreover, aviation enthusiasts and experts alike conjecture that the pilot likely survived due to the incredibly precise maneuvering they exhibited. Ironically, the Russian helicopter was reportedly downed by a weapon of their own design. In reality, many countries have been donating old Soviet weapons to Ukraine, including Germany, which donated thousands of Strela II MANPADS units, and the United States, which provided funding for similar Soviet systems and their variants from other countries and former Soviet bloc members. As for the 9K-38 Igla, it has demonstrated its capability of engaging effectively in warfare well into the 21st century. The Igla man-portable air defense system is a shoulder-fired missile platform designed to take down aircraft, especially helicopters. It is also a formidable weapon in the hands of trained soldiers. In 1972, a team at Kolomna OKB began working on a new project for a short-range MANPADS that would be more advanced than previous systems like the Strela II and Strela III. The system was renamed to 9K-38 Igla, or SA-18 Grouse in NATO terminology. Contrary to common belief, the Igla was not merely an improvement on earlier MANPADS, but an entirely new project with the goal of creating a missile that could withstand countermeasures and have a more comprehensive engagement range. The Igla was introduced into Soviet military service in 1981 and has since been manufactured, sold, supplied, and modified by Russia. It has been used in 14 military conflicts to date and is currently operated by 17 countries, with many more interested in purchasing it. The entire missile system weighs 18 kilograms, with the missile itself weighing 12 kilograms and measuring 1.57 meters in length. The rocket has a diameter of 72 millimeters and a combat head that weighs 1.17 kilograms, with 390 grams of explosives. It is equipped with a contact and grazing fused detonation mechanism and is powered by a solid fuel rocket motor. Depending on the modification, the Igla missile has an operational range of 5 to 6 kilometers and can reach a maximum altitude of up to 3.5 meters. It can fly at a top speed of Mach 1.9, or approximately 570 meters per second, and is directed via dual waveband infrared. The Igla has undergone several upgrades, with the latest version, the Igla S, being the most advanced. One of the key improvements over the Strela III is the inclusion of an identification friend or foe system, which helps prevent friendly fire incidents by identifying Allied aircraft and inhibiting the missile from targeting them. Another improvement is the automatic lead and super elevation system, which simplifies shooting and reduces the minimum firing range. The missile's target size, reduced drag, and better guidance system allow it to extend its maximum capacity and improve its performance against fast and maneuverable targets. Equipped with dual detectors, the Igla Seeker utilizes a cooled MWIR INSB to detect the target and an uncooled PBS SWIR to detect IR decoys, such as flares, thereby distinguishing between genuine targets and decoys. Moreover, the latest variant, the Igla S, has additional detectors around the central seeker that provide further resistance against pulse IRCM devices typically installed on helicopters. Concurrently, Russian Ka-52 helicopter crews are being equipped with the Viker, a 90-pound missile. As a beam rider, the missile follows a laser beam fired at the target from up to 6 miles away. The challenge, however, is that the helicopter firing the missile must remain stationary until it hits its target, which can take several seconds. This constitutes a significant risk when confronted with highly proficient Ukrainian manpads operators who could easily target the stationary helicopter. Despite abandoning deep penetration operations, the Ka-52 crews continued to suffer losses, resulting in the fall of seasoned pilots. With about 75 Ka-52 helicopters remaining in the Russian Air Force, it could take years to train new and capable replacements for the fallen pilots. Complicating matters further, time may not be favoring the Russian Air Force, as the Ukrainians have recently pushed back Russian forces and advanced onto their territories. With the Russians on the back foot, the war could conclude before the Air Force has the opportunity to reconstitute its attack helicopter regiments. In August 2023, a video depicting the abrupt and nearly vertical descent of an Embraer 135 business jet within Russian borders came as a shock to few. After all, the aircraft was carrying Yevgeny Prigozhin, who in the past 2 decades had become rich through his personal ties to Russian President Vladimir Putin, winning lucrative catering and construction contracts with the Russian government. For years, through the use of his own for-hire army filled with convicts, Prigozhin did the Kremlin's dirty work, reinforcing Russian influence among its adversaries around the globe. Exhibiting allegiance solely to Putin, Prigozhin evolved into an emblematic figure of wartime Russia, a public power player who bent and molded social media to his will. However, drunk on his own power, he ventured into the dangerous territory of challenging a president few dare to cross, and fewer live long enough to speak about it. 60 days after spearheading a rebellion that posed the gravest threat to Putin's authority during his 23-year rule, Prigozhin made a fateful end. Since then, the video of the incident has transformed into an enigma, captivating experts and conspiracy enthusiasts alike, seeking to decipher its secrets. Yevgeny Prigozhin, once a Soviet Union convict, worked his way up from the criminal underworld through a controlled network of influential companies that led him to befriend President Vladimir Putin. Sometimes dubbed Putin's chef, Prigozhin's restaurants and catering ventures became indispensable to the Kremlin, propelling him into the proximity of the president himself. However, Prigozhin, somewhat of a do-it-all fixer for the regime, once joked that his nickname should have been Putin's Butcher, to whom he always professed his loyalty. In 2014, he established the Wagner Group, a private army for hire that carried out the geopolitical aims and wishes of the Russian state, especially in territories like Africa and the Middle East. Funded by the Russian state, Wagner played a pivotal role in Russia's 2022 invasion of Ukraine, thrusting Prigozhin into the spotlight. As the war unfolded and the Russian ground forces suffered significant losses, Putin's decision to enlist mercenaries instead of mobilizing reserves saw Prigozhin's influence swell, along with the Wagner Group's power. With substantial resources at his command, Prigozhin garnered the authority to draft inmates from Russian prisons into his ranks, securing their freedom in exchange. Western intelligence suggests this mercenary force multiplied tenfold from 2017 to 2022. As the conflict raged on, the Wagner Group showcased its prowess, capturing the pivotal eastern city of Bakhmut, marking a rare Russian triumph during the winter counteroffensive. Yet, emboldened by power and influence, Prigozhin began targeting Russia's military brass, accusing generals in damning videos of withholding support and ammunition from Wagner. He also pointed fingers at the Russian Defense Ministry for corruption and incompetence, stating that the reasons they gave for invading were lies. These attacks intensified throughout the first half of 2023. As patience wore thin, Putin issued a directive for the formal integration of Wagner fighters into the Russian military by July. After months of berating Putin's military leadership for allegedly mishandling the Ukraine war, Prigozhin and the Wagner Group initiated a mutiny against the Russian military on June 23, 2023. Wagner's forces seized the southern city of Rostov-on-Don, capturing military installations and downing several Russian aircraft as they embarked on a swift march toward Moscow. However, the rebellion's rise was matched only by its abrupt fall. The Wagner convoy halted a mere 125 miles from the capital. News from the Kremlin declared that Prigozhin had suspended the rebellion, reportedly accepting an exile offer brokered by Belarus leader Alexander Lukashenko. Initially branded a traitor by Putin, Prigozhin's fate shifted from prosecution to an agreement that saw all charges dropped in exchange for moving his forces to Belarus. Prigozhin vehemently insisted the June 2023 incident was a march for justice, denying any coup attempt. But crossing Putin has often proved to be a dangerous game, a lesson reiterated time and time again. Since then, the once influential Prigozhin largely vanished from public view. There was speculation of a meeting with Putin himself. In an August 22nd video, Prigozhin, isolated in a field, discussed Wagner's African operations. Military analyst Sean Bell poignantly observed, quote, "Prigozhin appears as a solitary figure, a witness to the dissolution of his empire. At that juncture, most military analysts believed this is the end." It seemed his fate was decided for him. 2 months to the day after the ill-fated coup attempt in Russia on August 23, 2023, a private business jet carrying Yevgeny Prigozhin, the enigmatic leader of the Wagner Group, and his entourage plummeted from the sky, crashing into a field that lay halfway between Moscow and St. Petersburg. Forensic examinations quickly confirmed that among the casualties lay the life of Prigozhin, his right-hand man Dmitry Utkin, and several others. Russia's aviation authorities promptly announced the initiation of investigations into the harrowing incident. Since then, social media platforms have been rife with speculation and misinformation. Some suggested that the culprit was a case of wine containing a bomb that was put on the aircraft at the last minute. RIA Novosti, the Russian state media agency, posted a shaky video that shows a plane falling almost vertically from the sky, trailed by a cloud of smoke. Other footage appeared to show the aircraft debris burning on the ground. Its paint and a partial registration number matched a jet that Prigozhin was known to use. The videos, forever etched into the minds of many, have led to countless theories. Initial theories posited a missile strike. This notion was eventually discounted by preliminary U.S. intelligence. It revealed that the plane's catastrophic plunge resulted from a distinct explosion, ruling out the possibility of a surface-to-air missile. In the footage capturing the plane's descent, a trail of smoke emerging midway through its fall was revealed to be far from ordinary. Sean Bell, the former pilot turned military analyst, asserted that this trail likely signaled significant aircraft damage. He remarked, quote, "There's a plethora of reasons why that might have occurred, but that's not the hallmark of a natural accident. That's the evidence of an airborne catastrophe." A New York Times analysis of flight data and videos concluded there was at least one catastrophic mid-air event minutes before the jet crashed. According to experts, the sudden drop and widespread debris point to an explosion or sudden breaking apart of the aircraft, not a mechanical failure. However, not everyone believes the footage shared online was even of the Wagner Group jet, and it may be even older. Skepticism lingers. In the words of Peter Stano, a European Commission spokesman for foreign affairs, quote, "Hardly anything that comes out of Russia these days is credible." Suspicions immediately arose that the plane crash was a Kremlin act of vengeance. U.S. President Joe Biden told reporters he was not surprised by the news and asserted that there's not much that happens in Russia that Putin is not behind. Meanwhile, Ukrainian Presidential Office Advisor Mikhailo Podolyak believes that when Prigozhin marched toward Moscow with his mercenaries, he forfeited his life. However, as expected, the Kremlin has vehemently denied their involvement. On the 24th, Putin offered condolences to the plane crash victims. He described the head of Wagner as a talented man he'd known for decades, who, despite making serious mistakes, was still apparently doing business with the government. Several Wagner-affiliated Telegram channels are reporting that with the loss of Prigozhin, Russia has lost its military elite. Other officers at the company have held council meetings to discuss Wagner's next steps. Curiously, the entire timeline coincides with General Sergei Surovkin's removal as Russia's aerospace commander. A top Russian military leader, Surovkin was a Prigozhin ally. U.S. intelligence reportedly had evidence that he might have known about the Wagner rebellion before it happened. Surovkin hadn't been seen since, and some suggest he was detained in the rebellion's aftermath. Surovkin's removal and Prigozhin's potential demise suggest that Putin may be purging what he sees as potential threats to his power. On August 29th, Russian mercenary chief Yevgeny Prigozhin was laid to rest in a secluded ceremony on the outskirts of St. Petersburg, an intriguing departure from the bold, self-publicizing approach that had defined his reputation. Since Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the world has borne witness to multiple plot twists, and Prigozhin's potential demise may add another layer of enigma. A master of multimedia manipulation and propaganda, some question whether Prigozhin, the architect of narratives, was in fact the orchestrator behind the incident. Might Prigozhin still be around? In June 2023, chilling drone footage posted on social media unveils a Russian T-54 or T-55 tank believed to be nearly 7 decades old, slowly advancing toward Ukrainian defenses. But this weathered main battle tank holds a sinister secret. Whispers from pro-Russian sources suggest that beneath its aged exterior, this tank has been transformed into a vehicle-borne improvised explosive device, carrying a staggering payload of approximately 6 tons of TNT. Guided remotely, the tank slowly creeps forward until a sudden explosion halts its progress. The vehicle is then finally demolished by the Ukrainians in an enormous fireball that is so large it causes the screen to go blank for a second, followed by a massive cloud of smoke and fire that swallows the tank and all its surroundings. While the move seems to only be the latest attempt by Russia to halt the ongoing 2023 counteroffensive, according to some, converting T-54s and 55s into an explosive device might be only the testbed for an even more frightening invention. Captured on camera, the Russians packed what appears to be a T-54 or 55 tank with explosives, controlled from a distance using simple radio remote controls. The tank was set in motion, rolling toward Ukrainian trenches. However, its progress was abruptly halted as the vehicle-borne improvised explosive device, or VBIED, struck a mine, slowing it down. The vehicle was ultimately destroyed by a Ukrainian soldier using an anti-tank weapon, vanishing amidst a billowing cloud of smoke and debris. Although several pro-Russian social media accounts have claimed that the remote-controlled explosive device caused Ukrainian casualties, these claims remain unconfirmed. This attempted VBIED attack underscores the seemingly growing desperation of Russian forces after months of intense fighting, culminating in the long-anticipated 2023 counteroffensive. Launched on June 4, 2023, the countermove began with Ukrainian brigades armed with Western tanks and fighting vehicles launching attacks along multiple lines. Having begun to exhaust their supply of modern weaponry long ago, the Russian armed forces are now repurposing long-stored tanks and fighting vehicles, resulting in increasingly unconventional modifications. Prior to the conflict with Ukraine, the Russian army boasted a formidable stockpile of over 10,200 tanks, including various models such as the T-4, T-55, T-62, T-72, and T-90. However, after more than a year of intense fighting, rumors circulate that the Russian army now possesses only a fraction of its once considerable fleet of modern operational tanks. Faced with these significant losses, officials within the Russian Ministry of Defense have resorted to reintegrating their oldest tanks, such as the T-54-55, into active service. In March 2023, photographs depicting a large convoy of T-54 and 55 tanks being transported by rail surfaced on social media, fueling speculation of their deployment to the Ukrainian front. Now, with the new footage from June, the actual operational use of a few of these aging machines has come to light. The T-54-55, first introduced during World War II, holds the distinction of being the most produced tank in military history, with over 83,500 units manufactured in mainland Russia alone. Throughout the Cold War and beyond, an additional 21,000 T-54-55 tanks were produced by Poland and Czechoslovakia. Also, China reverse-engineered the design and ensured countries such as North Korea, North Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia had the number of vehicles they needed for their own endeavors. Yet, after more than 70 years, this once formidable tank that once fought alongside the United States against the Axis powers, then against them in the Cold War, has become obsolete. Its limited capabilities, including thin armor, rudimentary optics, and minimally stabilized 100mm guns, render the T-54-55 tanks ineffective and even dangerous for crews in intense combat, particularly during night operations. The Russians are undoubtedly aware of these limitations. It is this recognition that drives their turn towards the use of vehicle-borne improvised explosive devices as an alternative to risking manned missions. Unsurprisingly, the footage of the Russian T-54-55 remote-controlled main battle tank triggered a varied range of responses on social media. While some believe the events demonstrate Russia's capabilities to adapt to the war, some view the tactic as a sign of increasing distress in the face of the ongoing Ukrainian counteroffensive operation. To some online commenters, an adequate army with endless supplies of long-range munitions would not even bother trying to blow up an enemy position with a radio-controlled tank. With its rudimentary remote controls, the Russian VBIED can only be pointed in the exact direction of the target and then left to roll towards it before detonating the explosives, undoubtedly making it a fairly easy target. With T-54-55 tanks available in somewhat ample quantity and with plenty of older explosives that can be fitted inside them, Russia seems more than willing to accept losses of these vehicles in the specific VBIED role, as long as it can continue to frustrate Ukraine's long-awaited counteroffensive in the process. VBIEDs are not a new concept. In fact, the tactic is almost as old as the T-54-55 tank itself. Its origins can be traced all the way back to World War II, with Goliath-tracked mines. Decades later, the concept re-emerged when Soviet-era troop carrier, high-mobility, multi-purpose wheeled vehicles were filled with bombs and used by ISIS and Al-Qaeda-linked militants to carry out attacks against Syrian forces during the country's 12-year civil war, beginning in 2011. Beginning in 2022 with the Russian-Ukraine conflict, the Russians initially deployed vehicle-borne improvised explosive devices as short-range mobile artillery paired with somewhat more modern T-62 tanks. According to open intelligence sources, some pro-Ukrainian elements have also used a kind of VBIED against the Russians, with most evidence pointing to a truck-borne improvised explosive device. However, some online conversations regarding the Russian use of VBIEDs revolve around an emerging, frightening new tactic, particularly as Ukrainian forces continue to make incremental gains in their spring 2023 counteroffensive. In an interview with the newspaper, Petros Papantonio, a lieutenant colonel with the Hellenic Army, initially expressed skepticism about the effectiveness of the Russian approach. According to the Greek battalion commander, he doubted it would yield any tangible benefits, especially now that unmanned aerial vehicles, kamikaze drones, and loitering ammunition are so cheap and easy to acquire. Still, Papantonio described 3 potential scenarios of why Russia might be attempting this seemingly hopeless maneuver. Firstly, he suggested that these efforts are merely experiments before using similar modern robotic vehicles or armored VBIEDs against Ukrainian fortifications, buildings, and concentrations of ammunition and other materials essential for the active counteroffensive. Second, there's the possibility of using remotely controlled vehicles alongside regular weapon systems, hoping that these modified weapons will go unnoticed for long enough to close in on their targets. The third scenario, however, is the most dreadful. Instead of regular warheads, these could merely be trials for future use of tanks with tactical nuclear warheads of a few kilotons. Even if destroyed early, the explosion blast alone would have far-reaching consequences. Papantonio emphasized the potential terror that such a nuclear VBIED would instill in frontline troops. The fear of a nuclear blast alone might even cause Ukrainian soldiers to abandon their positions. Lieutenant Commander Papantonio concluded that the utilization and later mass production of tactical nuclear weapons could unleash widespread terror on a global scale, with long-lasting consequences. Adapting older tanks as a method of survival in a war nobody saw lasting this long is a trend that will likely be adopted more widely. Not only does Russia have large stocks of these veteran tanks to call upon, but adapting them for this role is relatively straightforward and cheap. As the conflict between Russia and Ukraine rages on, the deployment of these aging tanks raises questions about the lengths both forces are willing to go to. Are the T-54-55 tanks from the June 2023 video only the beginning of a new iteration of nuclear-powered vehicle-borne improvised explosive devices?